Hello and welcome to Gangs All Here. My name is Ryan Sampson, joined by Frankie Vinariti and our Jets beat writer from the New York Post, Brian Costello. Today is Wednesday, June 18th. The Jets finished up mandatory minicamp, guys, and we're going to talk about that and what happened during minicamp, get Kaz's takeaways from that. We're a little bit over a month away from training camp start. But before we get to any of that, fellas, the gang is all here right now.
Finally,
the first time ever.
Right? It feels nice to be in studio before training camp, which I know it gets really busy, but a little bit of a slow period right now. Like, this is the off season before the season really starts. Kaz, how you feeling, man?
Well, I wish I didn't have to go through the Lincoln Tunnel to be all here, to be honest with you. But no, this is it. Like you said, question I get from people in my life a lot of times is, oh, what do you cover during the off season? Who don't quite understand there really isn't much of an off season. You know, football every day for most of the year, but this is the time, right? The next month is really the downtime.
Yeah, you know, you get to cover guys like the thicker kickers signing with the Jets, because that's kind of the moves that are happening right now with the Jets. You know, we get the news today that Carlson was released by the Jets. They did sign the thicker kicker, his nickname, Mevin. They signed him yesterday, but that's really all that's going on right now is just kicker news.
There could be some more transactions before July 22nd, but typically it'll be, I think, it's maybe right now and then a little closer, right? I think they're still working right now, and then they usually go on vacation for a few weeks, and then maybe we'll see some stuff right before July 22nd when they report to camp.
Yeah, I mean, so that's kind of where I want to start here with the show, guys, is that, you know, Kaz, we had mandatory minicamp last week, full participation, even though Aaron Glenn wouldn't give the actual answer of how all the players were there. But full participation from the crew, it looked like. Yeah. You know, the guys that we had, potentially had worried about with Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner, they were both there practicing. But I just want to get your takeaways from minicamp and if there's any questions that you have surrounding this team after minicamp has now been finished with the Jets.
Yeah, I have questions, Ryan. I mean, you start with Justin Fields, right? I think I'm not breaking ground here. It all starts with the quarterback, and he's a question mark. And I think the Jets season, when you're trying to project wins, it's the big question is what Justin Fields are they going to get? Is he going to take that step that Sam Darnold took or Baker Mayfield took with another team and turn his career around, or is he going to be the same guy that he was with Chicago? And I think that's going to determine a lot here. Other questions, the receiver room is a question mark beyond Garrett Wilson. You know, Josh Reynolds, Tyler Johnson, Alan Lazar, Xavier Gibson. That's what you're looking at. So, yeah. So, you know, when you're watching OTAs and minicamp, I'll kind of put them together. Like, every day you're kind of like, this could be tough, you know. And Garrett was phenomenal this spring. Like, he was incredible. But he's playing defenses that aren't scheming to stop him. And I'm not Bill Belichick, but if I'm going against the Jets right now, I'm rolling coverage to Garrett Wilson on every freaking play. He's not beating me. I'm going to let Tyler Johnson beat me or Josh Reynolds beat me if they can. So that's the question. I think the defense, the starters are good, but there's not much depth there. So I think you're an injury or two away on defense from having issues. So those to me are the biggest question marks in my mind right now. Exiting minicamp.
Hey, Kaz, thanks for coming in studio. By the way, you guys look better in person than over the digital airways. I just want to bring that up. You guys look great. But, Kaz, really quick about Justin Fields specifically. Do you notice him holding on to the ball too long? I know that's a common theme here. Yeah.
So I did early. Like early in OTAs. I thought he got better as time went on. And in fairness, he's learning a new offense.
Yeah,
so
of course.
If this was, Russell Wilson, right? If he was holding on the ball too long, we wouldn't even notice because it's like, okay, he's learning a new offense. Justin Fields, that's the knock on him. So we're very cognizant of it. And it's like, oh my gosh, he's holding the ball. He definitely did early in OTAs, but I thought he got better as minicamp went on. He didn't push the ball a lot down the field. Like, it was a lot of checkdowns, a lot of short throws, a lot of intermediate throws to Garrett. So is that by design? Like, these are things you don't know when you're watching OTAs and minicamp. It's like, what are they trying to accomplish here? How much freedom does he have, or is he supposed to throw it there? So I don't get worked up over what I see in the spring. You know, I learned a long time ago. Like, you don't really, it doesn't really matter, when it goes on. So, but early on, I thought that was a problem. But I kind of give him the benefit of the doubt, learning a new offense. All players he hasn't played with before, other than the guys he played with in college. So I didn't think it was a big deal.
The follow-up I have about the Justin Fields part, too, is his athleticism, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's a special athlete, and we knew what kind of athlete he was coming when the Jets did bring him in. did that pop on the field from what you saw already?
It did. There was one practice in particular where they were doing running plays, like it was designed runs.
Oh, nice.
And you could just see him hit the corner, and it looked different. And you could just almost see how the defenders moved, like trying to they're not tackling, but just trying to take an angle, and they were getting beat. So like you could see that for sure. I'm very curious. The Jets have said, "Oh, we want him to play quarterback, right? They want him to throw the ball. They don't want him to be just a runner." I'm interested to see how they incorporate running, how they do both things, right? You don't want to take away what he's special at, which is this running ability. That's what separates him from other quarterbacks. But you also don't want him to just go out there and run the wishbone. So I'm curious to see how Tanner Engstrand and Aaron Glenn come up with a plan to do both.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, my opinion on that is this. I think as much as I would love to see a year filled with RPOs, read options, have Fields sort of scrambling as much as he can because that's his strength as a quarterback, I don't think we're going to see it. I don't. I think we'll see it in spurts. I think Fields will give it to you at times when he needs to. But I don't think Tanner, coming from that Detroit system, I don't think we're going to see as much of it as maybe I would like. I'm not saying that's the best way.
Yeah.
It's my opinion. I think it is the better way, but I don't think we're going to see it that much. I don't.
Yeah, I'm not sure you can live like that in the NFL with just all RPOs. So I don't know. I'm with you. I don't think you're going to see all of that.
Yeah.
I think it'll be in spurts, but I do think they're going to be run heavy. Like I just watching the personnel, not even just from you can't really tell play calling stuff in OTAs, but you're just looking at it. You're like, logically, this team has to run the ball. And so that would be my other question too, Ryan, is I think the offensive line has gotten like this hype that I'm not sure they deserve yet. I've heard they're a top 10 offensive line.
They're top 5.
They're top 5 offensive. Like let's see it. Let's see it.
So Ryan said they're top 5.
Maybe they are, but let's see it.
Potential to have top 5.
Look, one guy's never played a snap.
Correct.
The other guy played basically half a season at his position, and he looked good, but I need to see a little bit more. AVT's had a tough time staying on the field. Simpson had a really good year last year. I'm not sure where Joe Tippmann is with this regime. I think there's going to be a training camp competition between him and Josh Myers. So I need to see a little more before I'm like, oh yeah, the offensive line's set. So I'm curious to see how that works. I do think they'll be coached better.
Yeah.
Just watching the drills, I think they're they'll be coached a lot better than they were last year.
Right. I mean, they've invested a lot. Well, the previous regime and this regime has invested a lot in that offensive line.
They have.
So you would hope it comes to fruition. I do want to ask you about Tanner Engstrand, right? This is his first go at it as an offensive coordinator with the Jets. Is there any takeaways you have from his offensive style and play calling? I know we're talking about the running game, but, I just wonder, do you see more complicated route running from the wide receivers? Do you see more intricate play calling there? Does he have a good ability to communicate to the offense and what he's working with in Justin Fields?
It's hard for me to go on the receiver stuff, right? Remember, I'm watching this live, standing up on a balcony, right?
Exactly.
So, you can't sit there and go, oh, what were the route concepts here? Like when you're watching film, it's not the same thing. So I'm not going to pretend like I'm Brian Baldinger here and break it down.
Impressions for you when you see.
I do think the communications, just talking to him, I think he seems like a smart guy.
Yeah.
I think he, I've liked some of his answers. He seems a little nervous when he's in front of us. It's the first time he's done that too. But yeah, they're enthusiastic. I see communication on the field. I haven't seen a lot of hiccups, right? I haven't seen a lot of redos of plays and guys jumping off sides and confusion on the field. That you can see from not watching film. You can watch live. So I think that's been a positive. But yeah, we won't know anything until September 7th. Yeah. And anyone who's pretending that they know that you don't know, because they're not showing everything either. They're cognizant of when we're watching too.
Sure.
They're not gonna, even though they think we know nothing, they try not to show us anything. So we're not gonna know anything until we get to a game.
Yeah, and I thought what was interesting is that Aaron Glenn, I think he was speaking to you guys and we're asking about install, and he's saying we throw everything at these guys and we just want to throw all the information at them, see what retains, and see if we can start keeping that information and how they can get better. And like you said, they're always going to monitor what they're installing in front of you and what they're showing to the media. You had hit on the wide receiver 2 spot, and I think you have a strong opinion about this. Look, guys, I don't know if the Jets have a wide receiver 2 right now officially.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to label Lazard that, sure,
I don't think
go
we have a
for it.
wide receiver 3 right now.
I think
either.
I give Josh Reynolds the edge there,
Yeah.
just from what I've seen. And
That's what they've said too.
I wrote this in my newsletter this week, right? Like, Moneyball, right? The scene in Moneyball where they're with the scouts and Billy Bean's like, guys, we're not going to recreate Jason Giambi. But we can recreate him in the aggregate.
Yes.
Right? So give me 5 players whose on-base percentage adds up to him. I think the Jets might have a wide receiver 2 in aggregate. So I think it might be like, rotating guys through that position and riding the hot hand, which is weird. It's unusual, but I just get this feeling just watching them. Like, Josh Reynolds and Alan Lazard to me are like the same player.
Seriously, they are.
They're very similar players, and then Tyler Johnson's an interesting guy. He's been out there a lot. And then Xavier Gibson, I think, is your receiver 3, right? Your slot guy right now. But he really hasn't done much in that role early in his career. So,
and you forgot one name there.
Yeah, the guy that
I've
they
been waiting
drafted.
for this name. Malachi
Corley
Corley.
hasn't been out there.
He hasn't at all. Yeah.
I mean, I think he was
He's
out there
been
early in
practicing on, like,
OTAs,
his
but
own.
he's been hurt for weeks. Like, we barely saw. Yeah, we barely saw him. We don't know what the injury is.
Like workouts in
But
the corner
he
and,
just
like,
he's up and on, like, they have 4 fields at the Jets. He's on the field with the trainers just running.
Yeah.
So he's got something he's dealing with. So yeah, I mean, and that's huge.
Yeah.
Like, he's going to be big for him. This is a huge camp, so we'll see what he can do in training camp. But yeah, he just hasn't been out there. So he's not even really in the picture for me right now.
Kaz, are you with me where when it comes to Malachi Corley, I just want to see what he could potentially give us on in a long-term window or in a short-term window too. I want to know, is this guy, and this is a theme for this season, is this player, Malachi Corley in this instance, is he somebody you can depend on in 26, 27? Do you think they're even interested in figuring that out this year, or we have bigger problems, bigger fish to fry?
I think when you look at Corley and what he did in college and like with the ball in his hands, I think if you're Tanner Engstrand and Aaron Glenn, you're going, okay, how can we simply put the ball in his hands? Like, and he's not going to be a guy who's going to play 60 snaps a game.
Right.
That is not happening right now, and it maybe never happen. But can I get 20 plays from him a game where I get the ball to him 5 times, whether that's on a run? We saw what he could do last year on those reverses, the one he fumbles the ball at the goal line, but there was another one later in the season where, like, he is good with the ball in his hands. Can we throw a wide receiver screen to him? Can we do, little push pass to him? Something, just get the ball in his hands and see if he can create something. Like that, if I'm those guys, that's what I'm thinking with him. Now, I've said that about players in the past, and coaches seem to struggle doing that. Like, for whatever reason, they kind of get locked in on, like, this is the rotation, and maybe it's just harder to do than it sounds to us. But to me, that's where I'm at with Corley. Is I'm trying to figure out ways to get the ball in his hands and see if he can create stuff. And then, Frankie, like we'll talk about later, can he have a role down the road? The first step, I think, is just, can I get that out of him? Yeah. And the previous coaching staff liked him enough to draft him, but then they didn't have that role for him. So clearly,
like
there
what
was
the
something
Lions
missing.
did with Jameson Williams, by the way. The
Yeah.
Lions with Jameson Williams sort of let him
Yeah.
crawl before he can walk before he can run.
I mean, you're
sort
talking
of
about
thing.
also a first-round pick that was.
Yeah, he's a
Yeah,
better
for
player,
sure.
but,
Definitely.
but I mean,
Yeah.
Corley's thing is, right, Yak King, right? So
Yeah.
so now just get the ball in his hands, like just
Yeah.
figure out. Like, I don't think he's going to be out there running the route tree for you. So like he's not going to do that, but just like run some gadget plays for him, and figure that out.
So we talked a lot about the offense here. I do want to talk about the one position group that we haven't hit on yet, the running back position, right?
Yeah.
Breece Hall, he's entering year 4 for him. He didn't have a great year last year, but they do have a couple other running backs that, I think fans like. I think, the team might like. What's your read on the stable of running backs they have and how they're going to use all 3 of those guys?
Yeah, I think it's the strength of the team, honestly. When you look at it, I think it's the best position group on the team. I do think Joe Douglas did a good job there, right? And one of the mysteries of the 2024 season is why they didn't run the ball more. We can debate that all day, but yeah, I think it's a good group. I'm curious to see how Engstrand feeds everybody. Like, I think that's going to be tough to feed the 3 of them, but let's just go on 1, 2, 3. I think Breece, was interesting talking to him. That he had a pretty serious knee injury at the end of last year, and we kind of glossed over that because 2 things happened late in the year. Like, it's late in the year, so everyone's kind of checked out already. You're not invested in whether they can beat the Dolphins in Miami, and they don't tell us the truth about injuries at the end of the year. They don't tell us how serious these things are. And he said it was pretty serious. He said if he had to do it over again, he wouldn't have come back as quick as he did. Wow. So I think that's part of when you're evaluating Breece Hall's season. You got to look at that. I think the offensive line play was a mess last year in terms of the running game. So I just don't think they had a plan. And then Braylon Allen, we saw good things from him. I think you got to utilize him in short yardage. We all talked about that last year. And then Isaiah Davis, going back and watching the season, he really came on at the end of the year. He had a bigger role when Breece was hurt, and he did some good things against Miami. In Miami, that game, he had a receiving touchdown against Seattle. He can catch the ball. He can run the ball. He can do a lot. So, I think you go into it, I think Breece is the guy, and I think, that he'll probably get the most carries for sure. But I do think there could be some games where you see the other guys get featured a little bit more. It's going to be a challenge for Engstrand. It's a good challenge to have, but it's going to be a challenge for him to figure out how to use all three guys.
Guys, what was the Breece injury? I mean, what?
It's a knee. It was, I think it was MCL, if I remember right.
A sprain, right?
Yeah, and then I think he had a hyperextension too. I think there was two things.
Wow.
And I kind of even forgot about it. And then I was looking before we talked to him. I was looking about his season. I was like, oh, he missed that game in Miami. Yeah. I forgot that. And looking it up, and he got hurt against the Colts, I think. Then there was the bye week. He played against Seattle, but he wasn't himself. Got hurt again. Skipped Miami, and then came back in Jacksonville. But he never really – I remember there was a run in Jacksonville where he kind of fell down.
Yeah.
And it was like, that's not Breece. And I just don't think he looked like himself. And, evaluating last season is hard because it was such a screwy year with the coach getting fired and – everything coming off the rails, like
demoting the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, demoting the offensive coordinator. It just felt like there was, they were playing uphill all season.
Yeah. It's going to be fascinating for Breece this year, just because it is year 4. He's going to be playing for potentially a contract here. Yep. So I'm interested to see how he attacks this year, and if he can have a big year in an offense where they're going to be focusing on the run a lot. You wonder how much they're going to be using him and splitting those carries between those other two running backs. Guys, I want to shift over now to the culture of the Jets.
What a wonderful word.
Yes. Culture.
Is that even a real word in football?
Culture club.
It's a hyper-focused thing that I think we as a show, and also I think a lot of football pundits love talking about culture of a football team, because that is what establishes, what your program is. Do you sense there's a culture shift here, Kaz, under Aaron Glenn?
Yeah, because there's a new coach. There's always a culture shift. But there was a culture shift under Robert Saleh. There was a culture shift under Adam Gase. There was a culture shift under Todd Bowles. They're always different than the last guy. So here's what I feel about culture is culture's great in April, May, June. Like, you can pretty much do what you want to do, right, and establish what you want and say all the right things. If you don't win, the culture goes out the window. Like, the culture has to be reinforced by winning, and that will make guys buy into the program. You got to show them that you can put them in the right positions and win games. I thought Saleh was on his way in 2022. Honestly, I thought he created a winning culture, and then the season collapsed, and they went to Aaron Rodgers, and that changed the culture. But like, you go back to 22 when they're winning in Green Bay, like they're winning in Pittsburgh. That stretch in October, like, right, the vibes were high.
But you would also agree that I think Saleh didn't manage the culture well when it came to the whole Mike White, Zach Wilson situation, and that kind of uglied the locker room a little bit, because guys noticed Mike White was slinging it around, and it's like, we can win with Mike White also, even though there was this number 2 pick.
He went to Mike White. He did go to Mike White.
Right, but then you still had guys wearing the T-shirts, right?
But when Mike White was starting, he already switched to Mike White. But the T-shirt thing, I mean, that was stupid. Yeah. Those players have admitted that was stupid. Like, they regret doing that, a lot of those guys that I talked to. I don't know if that was Saleh's fault, right? I think that was just guys making shirts. So the culture went off the rails kind of 23, 24, obviously. But, to me, it's all about winning, Ryan. Like, the culture will, like, if you go back to Rex's culture was great when they were winning, and then Rex's culture wasn't so great when they started losing. Right?
Well, Kaz, to your point,
you start picking everything apart.
Yeah, Kaz, to your point, really quick, you were right though. At the end of 2022, that kind of gave Rodgers the little thought in his mind that I like this team. I
Yeah.
like what they're doing in Green Bay. He liked that energy.
There's a
I mean, there was
top 5
something
defense.
there.
Yeah,
that,
there was
yeah.
young pieces on offense.
So
for
Yeah.
sure.
Like,
that
look
led
at
to
it-
us bringing in Rodgers
If
to a
Mike
degree,
Mike White doesn't break his ribs against Buffalo,
Yeah.
I think that's a playoff team. I do. I think that's where like they.
Oh, you mean we don't fire our offensive coordinator and blame it all on him too?
No, I think they're going to the playoffs because I think they can win the game in Seattle. I think it'd be different if he doesn't break his ribs there. So yeah, but culture, right? Like yeah, there's clearly a different culture right now, and Aaron Glenn is he's a louder coach. He's more aggressive. I think him being a former player is huge. I think guys respect that. So yeah, he's changed it. But now he's got to win games, or it doesn't really matter that they're all buying in. And I'll say this about the minicamp: he showed me something on the last day of minicamp when he made it a light practice. Because all we've heard about him is like, oh, he's a disciplinarian, he's a hard ass. The last day of practice, he's got the offensive lineman running patterns. At one point they were doing like running plays as offensive linemen just together. He had the receivers, they were doing like double passes to the quarterbacks. Like it was like an hour long, but it wasn't paintball or going to like Topgolf like some which we've seen coaches do. They were all out there together, but he knew like to take his foot off the gas and let them have fun. And so that showed like he can do both sides, which I think is important.
Well, little did you guys know that's probably going to be a part of the game plan. I'm just saying. Remember, the Lions like to throw.
If you watch these offensive linemen try to catch the ball, you wouldn't be saying that, Frankie. It was
Penny Sewell out there running routes.
It was rough. It was rough watching them track the ball.
Was it? Who was the worst offensive
The quarterbacks
lineman?
are just chucking it up in the air, and they have to like track the ball. And oh my god, it was tough. Yeah.
They got the big face smash
Yeah.
trying to catch the face.
Well, and forget the face mask. They got 300 pounds under them trying to adjust your body. You know?
So the reason again I ask about the culture part too is and Frankie brought this again to my attention about the Aaron Glenn and how he treats the media and how he speaks to you guys. So there's been some recent criticism of Aaron Glenn and how he's handled the media a little bit, responding to some of the questions. Your colleague Rich Cimini asked him about how many, was a full participant. He said, "Well, you tell me."
Yeah.
You pretty much saying you can count out there, but I felt like it was a simple question in what he was asking him, and just like the reason why we're asking is again, is Sauce there? Is Garrett there? Are those guys not missing from minicamp? Is there a right way to be about if you're a new head coach, right? Your first time head coach for Glenn. We know the New York media, you guys, how that is.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that Glenn has handled it the right way thus far, being a first-time head coach with you guys?
Yeah, I think he's been fine.
Okay.
My advice, if Aaron Glenn hasn't asked for my advice, but I've told other coaches this who I've talked to, is be yourself. That's what you have to do. The guys who get in trouble are the guys who try to be Bill Belichick up there, or try to be Bill Parcells, or try to be someone they're emulating. Like, just be yourself. And Aaron Glenn, I think, has been himself, and it's fine. They don't have to be nice to us, guys. Like, he's answered when he's up there. He answers the questions great. I think his answers have been really insightful. And if the question with Rich about the players, I don't know if this was on camera or not, but after the press conference was over, as he walked off, he went over and hit Rich on the shoulder and said, "I'm just messing with you."
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, like I think he likes being a wise ass to us, which that's fine, because we're gonna be wise asses to him over and over.
We know you are.
Yeah.
You know you are, guys.
Yeah. But like, look, I think one of Salah's issues was trying to be too friendly with the media, and obviously that came out. And he was texting Joe Beningo and other stuff, and so like I think he went too far that way. And the bottom line is winning, right? It's winning and losing, and so all we ask is that he meets his requirements to speak to us, and you don't have to be nice to us. It's fine. And I don't think he's been disrespectful at all. I haven't felt disrespected with him on the podium at all. And, I like the challenge of someone who's going to push back a little bit. Like I covered Barry Bonds early in my career for the Post. I covered the steroid scandal, so I was around him a lot for that. And then I did his, chasing Hank Aaron and Babe Ruth. Those 2 summers I basically spent with him. And Barry was a guy who was surly with the media, but he kept you on your toes. Like, you had to ask good questions because you knew he'd eat you alive if you asked a bad question.
Yeah.
Like, you can't be lazy. And I think Aaron Glenn is not surly, he like that, but I feel the same thing. Like you better have a good question for him, or he's gonna just blow you off. And training camp is a grind, and it's a grind for them with us. Like they're out there every day with us, and we're gonna ask 1,000 questions about Justin Fields. We're gonna ask some questions about the Pittsburgh quarterback, right? And he's gonna get annoyed. Todd Bowles used to get annoyed. I don't know if you remember those days. And but if he wins games, like Bill Belichick is a prime example. No one's gonna care how he treats the media. Yeah. It's all about winning games.
Kaz, do you think he's a little? I've gotten the sense, and you know much better than me and us, obviously, because you're there. I've gotten the sense he is a little bit combative at times, and I get where you're coming from. He's a little bit of a wise ass. But what happens when you lose 2 in a row, 3 in a row, and those tough questions come in?
Yeah.
He seems like that can sort of, avalanche a bit.
We don't know. I mean, that's a good question, Frankie. Yeah. That's different. That's when you're in the post-game situation and we're asking questions about your decisions, like, that's not for Brian Costello. That's for you guys, right? Like, I always take that responsibility seriously. Yes, it's like, when I go down there, I go, like, what questions do I have to ask that the fans want to know right now? And he has to remember that too. He's speaking to them. He's speaking to his team. So, I hope he doesn't go into like, I got to watch the film or like that kind of stuff. Like, you got to have an answer. So yeah, I don't know how he'll be in that situation. That's different. And that can be very trying. Like I give those guys credit because it's tough coming out after a loss and talking to us. So yeah, we'll see how he handles that.
Yeah, it's just obviously it's his first time doing this, right? So and like you said, it's going to be a grind in training camp, and I think while people could open him up for criticism, that's good. That's a good story for you to tell. The fact that off the camera, hey, he did
the same thing a week ago too. I don't know if this one got as much run. There was a female reporter asked about Justin Fields.
Oh yeah.
And he said, I answered that question, like I've answered that question every week or something. And she said, I haven't been here. And he said, well, that's your problem. Something like that. Like I can't remember if it's your problem or that's your fault. Yeah. And at the end, he said to her, he goes, I'm sorry if I was overboard. He goes, I was just kidding with you.
Okay.
So like I do think he's a genuinely good guy.
He's a Bill Parcells disciple, right? So like that's why you wonder about the whole.
I mean, he doesn't. Yeah, Parcells has sarcasm to a different level, but he's got the Parcells and Sean Payton too.
Yeah.
Sean Payton can be combative.
Oh yeah. I love when he told Samini, "I'm not a doctor." Like, what are you asking? Like, what's he supposed to ask? He's wondering if Jordan Travis is going to be available. He's like, "Well, I'm not a doctor." Well, if I can't ask you, who am I going to ask?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know he's kind of playing around a bit. Do you get that?
Like the coaches always toe that line with injuries, right, and stuff. And obviously Jordan Travis thing, you could tell something was going on there when the way Muji answered the question. But like I remember Rex used to come up with a sheet, that was basically from the trainer and read the injuries.
Oh yeah, like verbatim.
He'd be like Mark Sanchez knee. Like it was like he'd read like it's the first time he ever saw it, and we'd be like, Rex, like what's the knee injury? He goes, I don't know, guys. It just says knee on here.
That's great. That's great.
I actually do remember that. I haven't thought about that since.
Joe McKnight one time had a concussion, and he went up there, head. He goes, Joe McKnight head.
Yeah. I remember.
And so we're like, well, is that a concussion, Rex? He goes, I don't know. It's his head. And someone goes, well, did he fracture his skull?
Oh, well, listen, Glenn's probably going to be asked this a lot if this doesn't happen before training camp. He's got 2 players that are playing for new contracts as well, and Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner. I want to touch on this with you, Kaz. Should both of those guys, should they get extensions, and are they deserving of those big contract money that they're probably looking for?
Yes and yes. Yeah, I'm on board with those two. To me, it's like if you're not extending these guys, who are you extending? Because they've produced in their first 3 years. They've been good guys in the locker room. I think the arrow's pointing up for both of them. I think you get ahead of it. Like to me, I watch the Eagles kind of do this, right? They've gotten ahead of their contracts. Like the numbers at cornerback and wide receiver are only going to be higher in 2026 than they are in 2025.
I'm seeing J.C. Horn get $100 million. I'm like, Sauce is better player than J.C. Horn. You know what I mean?
And like, look, and a lot of times, Ryan, it's not about if you're the better player. It's about if you're the next player.
It's the quarterback thing, right?
It's, are you the next one to get paid? Yeah. So that's tricky. To me, Sauce is the easy one because, I know Frankie's going to push back on me on this. So, like, is Sauce Gardner a top 3 cornerback?
I would say so, yes.
I was asked this last week, and I kind of backpedaled.
Top 3.
Yes, but I think top 3 in a league where I don't think the best corner, let's say it's Sertan, I don't think is anything close to being at the caliber of some of the past, top corners.
Okay, but he's
with
not,
those Champ Baileys.
You're not playing against Champ Bailey and Deion Sanders.
Yeah,
though. Like, you're playing with what you got.
But I think that position. We'll talk about this.
But top 3, top 3 to me, then you pay him.
Yes.
You pay him, right? Garrett's a little trickier because Garrett is hard to slot. There's a lot of great wide receivers. When you go through the wide receivers now, it's
crazy.
It's incredible how many receivers there are. So he's tough of where does he fit in? How much do you say, oh, well, he's played with Zach Wilson and Mike White and Tim Boyle and
banged up
Aaron
Rodgers.
Rodgers? Like, how much do you say, okay, but he's still produced 1,000 yards every season. So he's a little harder to me. And, I'm sure that negotiation's a little trickier. But Garrett, I would pay him. I would. I'm not paying him Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase money. But I'm giving him a Ross St. Brown money. I'm giving him. He's in that category to me. He's in that.
So you would pay Sauce before Garrett, Kaz?
I think Sauce is easier.
Easier is what you're saying. Okay,
If I'm Muji right now, I'm talking to both of them, and whatever deal gets done first gets done first. But to me, Sauce. To me, I'm giving Sauce. I'm topping whatever
Stingley got.
Stingley got.
Yeah, it's the next big contract.
It's the next contract.
Stingley. What's interesting about Stingley's contract? He got 3 years, $90 million. 89 million's guaranteed.
Right.
The one thing with Stingley that I differ with Sauce. If you want to say Sauce is better than Stingley, okay, we could have that discussion, right? And you might be right. I don't even know. Let's wait until this year finishes or a few years. My issue with the Sauce deal for us is we have a lot of problems. Houston really, especially on offense, we have a lot of problems. Houston doesn't really have that many problems, especially on offense. They can afford to say, we need a linchpin corner. Let's just pay this young kid, and we're set there. We have our quarterback. We have our offense.
But you got to pay that quarterback. The Jets do not have a quarterback that they have to pay right now.
Yeah, but
we're on the horizon. They don't have one.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you think they're going to draft one next year?
Probably.
Yeah.
Right? We don't. But yeah.
So you're talking
about.
But
we don't know. I mean, maybe. Who knows if a free agent quarter? I'm just saying. I know it sounds ridiculous. It sounds a little ridiculous.
Who's
to
the
want
last?
To go back to free agency for a quarterback.
Yeah,
but
and those guys generally rarely get the crazy contracts.
No, they don't. Yeah.
Josh Allen's not becoming a free agent. Lamar Jackson's not becoming a free agent, right? Maybe Kirk Cousins is a free agent and gets money, gets paid again because he always gets paid. I don't see someone who's going to be oh my God, we need $100 million to pay this guy guaranteed right now. So I'm doing it, and most of these contracts you can get out after 2 years, but with Sauce, all pro is first 2 years.
It's crazy.
So if you're sitting there and you're talking to Woody Johnson, and Woody Johnson's well, I don't know if we should pay someone after 3 years. Say, okay, well, here's the precedent. We're only going to pay him if you make all pro 2 of your first 3 years. We'll pay you. Okay, if you're not going to pay a guy who made all pro his first 2 years, who are you paying?
The issue for me,
who are you paying? That's what he's
Who
asking.
are you paying?
Who are you paying?
I'm not going necessarily based on accolades if it's not something recent. Last year, Sauce was
recent was 2 years ago.
Kaz, he was 47th last year. Everyone loves PFF for Sauce, and it helped him a lot to be looked at by the league as being a top corner. He was 47th last year in the league, and I don't want to go off PFF and have that convo. However, I don't have an issue with Sauce necessarily on the field. I worry about him off the field. I just think he gets involved in things, and I'm not saying he's a bad guy. No, it's this Ice Spice thing, and it's these streamers. Listen, you get in that world a little bit, things get weird. I'm just saying. Not that I've been there, but I'm just saying.
Here's
you guys. I mean, listen. It's just I just hope he's a young guy. He might be a little bit impressionable. I'm just a little concerned that this streaming stuff. I've heard some of the stuff he said on some streams.
Can I push back on the off the field
tweets,
stuff?
I want to wait another year.
So let me,
sorry, I'm being the big boomer in the room.
I'll be the moderator here a little bit because I think I'd push back on the off the field stuff if you have concerns there. He seems like a guy who's always standing up, willing to speak to you guys whenever you approach him, and he'll always answer the questions that you guys are giving him, even when he's going through the struggles he did last year. It's the on-field stuff I could push you on, and I could somewhat agree because he did have a down year last year. And you can criticize him for his lack of tackling ability. You can criticize him for he doesn't pick the ball off as much as you would like as a number one corner. Those are real traits I think you can actually go after a number one corner for and say, hey, maybe that's why I'm pausing on not giving you all the money you want right now. But at the end of the day, I agree with Kaz. You don't find top 3 corners every single day in the draft. And while you can't everyone can't be the Philadelphia Eagles and find 2 corners in the draft and win a Super Bowl on the backs of those guys. I think you could truly build a dominant defense. We've seen it with Sauce Gardner as your number 1 corner.
Frank, would you feel fine if Sauce Gardner was on the Miami Dolphins in 2027?
Yes.
You'd feel fine.
I feel totally fine with it. Wow. I think, guys, I'm in the minority here, and this is just my crazy mind going there. I think he's going to have a little bit of a Jalen Ramsey trajectory in his career where he's got everything athletically speaking.
Corner in
Yeah,
football
wouldn't you sign up for the Jalen?
Yeah, but Ramsey
won a
left
Super Bowl with the Rams.
But he left the team that drafted him, I'm saying. Like,
right,
there
because
was
they
a
wouldn't
reason
pay
for-
him.
Yeah.
Well, I think we might
Do you not remember? Back the Brinks truck up for him.
I know. I think Sauce is being on a little bit of his best behavior. And I'm not saying I'm 100% running this. This is my opinion. I just give it to you straight.
Here's what I think, like with Sauce. I've never heard a teammate or a coach say anything negative about Sauce. And I think he comes from a different perspective than most stars come from. I did a story last year on Sauce and kind of his beginnings and stuff. And this wasn't the best player in Michigan when he was a freshman in high school, right? Like a lot of the times when we meet these guys who are the star players, they've been the best player since they were 13 years old, and they've heard how great they are. Sauce had to bust his ass to get there, right?
Yeah.
Like he went to Cincinnati. He was Cincinnati, he didn't go to Florida State or Michigan, or he went to Cincinnati. He was the 8th cornerback or whatever. He had to really earn it. So I think it's a little different perspective, and I'm not concerned about Sauce off the field at all. I think he's got the right stuff.
He did win an award this year, to give him some credit, not to bash the guy. He win the media.
He did win the media award. Yeah,
the media award as like the favorite
the good
guy.
guy.
in
The
media.
good guy.
The good guy.
And I'm not saying he's a bad guy.
Yeah,
I don't think. I think he needs a few more years to grow up.
Mature?
Yeah, he needs to mature a
he's
little
young.
bit.
Yeah, he's young.
And I just don't want us to be the ones to kind of go through those pains,
Yeah.
and then this contract's up, and we either have to pay him again or he walks.
I
That's
also
the
think
only
for
thing.
me, Frankie, as a Jets fan, I'm sick and tired of watching talented players leave our franchise
Yeah, I
that
hear
we've
you.
drafted and we
Yeah.
don't bring
And-
back.
and
You know,
honestly,
this
Frankie,
is
yeah,
rigged.
I agree.
How much
I agree.
further? Like, I'm not saying give him a 10-year contract, right? Like, but like you have him this year under contract, you have him next year. You'd probably tear up next year if he did the contract right now, right?
Yep.
And give him a 3-year deal. Like, I don't know. You're buying 2 more years of him than you have, and realistically, you could probably get out of that last year.
I don't think the price Kaz is going to go up that much if we wait one more year with him. I just really don't. Like, I know the number's 30.
But why
I
cost
think
yourself more when you know you can? That's what I'm saying. Like it's
But you're pushing it another year.
That's what I'm
Frankie.
saying.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
you
you are.
are.
You're right, yeah. And then you're elongating
Yeah.
this. But I think for me, and this is just from my perspective, I want to just see this guy have one more year, especially after a down year. I want to see how he sort of recovers from that quote-unquote down year. And to all standards, it was an average to above average cornerback year. So it wasn't like he had a bad year from a corner's perspective. But again, to the on-field stuff, and just to kind of wrap this up, I would love to see more game-changing plays. I'd love to see a momentum-swinging interception or something where, like,
Make a stop on 3rd down when the tight end catches the ball over the middle of the field, and you know.
yeah, and
stop
then
on
and
3rd
then
down, make the tackle.
and then don't tweet about it like it
Yeah.
had nothing to do with you.
Well,
winning or
speaking of
losing the
corners,
game.
I know Kaz has probably seen this too, but Jair Alexander
Yeah, I
actually
just
just
saw
signed a
that. Yep.
1-year deal with the Baltimore Ravens.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so but
I was hoping we were going to sign him, Kaz.
stop.
Replace Sauce. You cut Sauce.
I think, Frankie, I think you're on a lone island here with the Sauce Gardner extension.
know
Like,
I am.
I just
I know I am. I
you
have,
pay
I have
your-
a few people on Twitter that agree with me.
you
but
pay
that's
your
only
good
like 3 or 4.
players, and it's going to cost you more money down the line if you wait another
I've heard the
year.
interception thing from people in the
Yes.
NFL. People in the NFL have said to me, "Well, like he doesn't pick the ball off."
Yeah. Well,
The
what
ta- I think the tackling thing got overstated a little bit.
I agree with
right?
that.
Like, because it's like he's not a linebacker.
No.
So like, but he did. Yeah, he's not a great tackler, but he's a cornerback. It's okay. Like, but the interception thing is real. He doesn't pick the ball off.
He's been playing more man this year, so he might have
Yeah,
more opportunities
so we'll
to be
see.
picking the ball
We'll
off
see if
here.
they can get that. I
Yeah.
mean, both they have him and they have Stevens that didn't intercept the ball last year.
Yeah.
So they've got to work on that.
Kaz, at the end of last year, last thing on Sauce, I could talk about Sauce all day.
I know you
Actually,
can.
but remember towards the end of the year last year, last couple games, or even last, let's say 4 or 5 games, remember Sauce was just sitting on the sideline with undisclosed issues or injuries? Like, what was going on? Do you remember
I don't
that?
remember that.
The
don't remember
camera would
that.
pan on Sauce, and he wouldn't be in the game for whatever reason. It was never
Talking about
picked
the
up.
end of the game, or
Yeah, like towards the end of like some games last year, like he was just out of
remember
it.
that.
I don't know. I mean,
I know he kind of had that hard hit to the head that one game.
Yeah,
and
when he came
I
out,
think
yeah.
I think he might have been playing with a concussion, to be honest with you, at that point.
yeah, we had spoken about it on
yeah,
our post games
I-
a few times. I was just curious. The media really never picked up on it. I didn't know if he had a disclosed injury or maybe undisclosed injury.
Well, if he comes back
regardless.
in, they usually don't ever disclose it.
Right.
Like
Got it.
they always.
That's what happened.
If you
then.
ever listen to the coach, they said so and so didn't finish the game. So and so didn't finish the game.
Okay,
I don't
makes
think
sense.
the NFL like they're not required to disclose it. If they
The
they
one
come
thing
out.
I will, to finish up the extension talk, and I will ask you this, Kaz, in a sec, but the Garrett Wilson part of this whole equation, he's the one I actually am worried about that the Jets can't lock up, because he's going to want that top dollar as a wide receiver, and the Jets really, I understand they reunited him with his college teammate in Justin Fields, but this feels like a pivotal moment for, can you convince a guy like Garrett Wilson to stay here with the Jets, be a part of this quote-unquote retool, rebuild, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
and lock him up for long term?
Yeah, money will do that, Ryan. Right? I mean, if they give him what he wants,
But he
he'll
can
be
get
happy.
paid anywhere else, though, too. You know what I mean? If he wanted to.
Yeah, but you're not getting. You're waiting possibly till 2027 then, or maybe even 28 if they franchise tagged him. Like,
But then he'll do the holdout. I
They
want
wanna
to
get
trade,
paid. Yeah.
all that, you know?
yeah, I don't think Garrett wants to do that.
Okay.
I really don't. I think I don't think he's built like that. But he will if he has to, I'm sure. But I don't think he wants to get there. The fact that those two guys were there the whole spring, and I think Sauce missed a little bit, but they were there for the most part, shows me that there's stuff happening behind the scenes that they feel positive about. I think they wouldn't have shown up if otherwise. I mean, next year's really the year. You guys don't really make a lot of noise usually after year 3. Year 4 is when you see guys skipping a lot.
Yeah.
So, but I do think they, from both of their media availabilities, it sounds like they were encouraged. We'll see if it stays that way in the training. If they get something done before training camp, or I really think week 1 is the time you're looking at. Like, do they get something done before week 1?
And that was going to be my follow-up. Do you think they get extension deals done for both of these guys before week 1?
I'll go yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I will. I do. I think it's important for Glenn and Muji too. I think coming in and with the culture, I think saying, okay, if you're a good player with the Jets, we're going to pay you.
Do they want to feel those guys out a little bit though throughout the year? Like, they're so new here, it's tough for them to sort of tell themselves that these are cornerstone players on offense or defense.
Number one, they see enough on film, right?
For
and then,
sure.
And then I think they talk. They talk to the coach. They're friends with. They're like Glenn and Sala are friends.
Yeah.
Glenn, I'm sure Glenn and Ulbrich know each other. I'm sure other guys that were on that staff. Sean Jefferson is still on the staff, his Garrett's position coach last year, so they can get enough intel on their work habits and what the issues are. I'm sure from we've heard from Aaron Glenn about these meetings he's had with players and told them what to work on. So he knew coming in what the scouting report on these guys.
Yeah, I mean, it like we said, we're waiting to see once those details ever come, if they do come, those deals down the road, and we'd love to see what those final numbers are for both those guys if the Jets do get to lock them up. I will say, for the Aaron Glenn part of this whole thing, we had Teron Armstead here in studio yesterday. We interviewed him, and he actually played for Glenn when he was an assistant coach with the Saints. Could not have spoken more glowingly.
Oh, wow.
Loves him. He's like, I love that guy. I
Yeah.
would. He's like, if I didn't have a banged up knee, I would love to play for that guy. He swears by him, and he's really excited to see what Glenn could do with the Jets. So I'm excited myself, and just the hype's getting there. We're getting there. Summer's happening now. Once we get to that mid-July point, I'm going to be fully on board.
Are the Jets fans sucked all the way back in? Because you guys were kind of out at the end of last year. It felt like the most I ever heard was like, I'm done with this team. I can't believe that. The last 2 years felt like it sucked the soul out of the Jets fandom. Are you back, or is it still let's wait and see?
I'm not back.
I am.
Well, he was back when we did a show a month or
Yes.
two ago when he was saying they're going to win, what? Was he 9 games,
Oh,
10
yeah,
games?
yeah. I think he said 10.
I
He said 10
said
games.
I think he
they
said
could
10.
win. I see 9 to 10 wins on that schedule.
I could see. No, you predicted.
Could you predict
I
it?
did
10
predict it,
wins.
and I have the
We
clip
clipped
for you
it. We
guys.
clipped
I have
it.
the
Yeah.
clip.
Yes.
So listen, guys, I want to close out the show with a little bit of hypothetical, which I know is one of your favorite
All
things.
right. Love
yes.
it.
So listen, training camp is around the corner. There's still a potential move that could happen, and I'm sure the Jets are evaluating, thinking, what could we improve this team? I'm going to ask both of you guys to put your GM caps on and give me one hypothetical move if you could make right now for this Jets franchise and this Jets team roster right now, whether it's a trade, a free agent signing that might be still out there. What would it be, and what exactly would it do to help the team improve?
Frankie
Start
can
with
go
you, Frankie.
first.
All right, guys. So the Jets need a wide receiver too, badly, right? We need one. I am not sold, obviously, on Reynolds or Lazard or any of these other guys we got out there. Bring in a veteran. Bring in Keenan Allen. It's time. Bring him in for a few years. At least at the minimum, he might be able to teach Malachi Corley a few things.
Few years. He's still a free agent out there. You gonna give him a multi-year deal?
Yeah, why not? I like Keenan Allen. I'd give him a few years. Give him a year,
I don't-
whatever.
I don't
but
hate- I
what
don't
is
hate the
a year
move.
doesn't do anything
Yeah.
for me, and I think 2 years, it might not even get him to want to come here. Give him 2 years. Give him 12 mil with 6 guaranteed. I mean, I'm a little wild here, guys, but like I like Keenan Allen
Yeah,
that
me
much,
too.
and I know he's on his last legs, literally. Like he's gone through a bunch of issues, but I think the learning that he would provide and the mentorship in that locker room, I think, would be monumental, even for Garrett Wilson. He is an amazing route runner,
still is,
and you
yeah.
can't teach great route running. And great route running also gives you value. You saw Jerry Rice, even at the end of his career with the Raiders. I watched a highlight tape of him the other day. Why, I have no idea, but I did. With Jerry Rice and the Raiders, and he was still
The
good.
Raider? You watched Jerry Rice on the Raiders the other day?
Yeah, for some reason I just put it on. I don't know
There's a
why. I was
random
bored.
Clip on YouTube. You're probably watching.
Well,
right
I was.
there.
I follow an Instagram account. It's like,
Oh,
remember
okay.
these offenses, and it showed like the Rich Gannon team. I'm like, that's right. Jerry Rice was on the
Yeah.
Raiders. Like, go look this up.
I think Frankie needs some Netflix recommendations. Anyone out there? Can you
I need to get
give
off
some
my phone,
shows?
guys. I've been down these rabbit holes. I think it's time to do a little detox.
I'll go the other side of the ball.
Yeah.
There was a few OTAs where there was a lot of guys on the defensive line missing, right? That they weren't there, and you were looking at who's starting on this defensive line if people are missing, and it's like, whoa, like this isn't a good situation. So I'll go Zadarius Smith.
I
Right?
like
He's
that.
still
I
out
like
there,
that.
right? He's still a
Yeah.
free
He's
agent.
my guy, actually. I like him a lot.
Played in Detroit last year. So he played with Aaron Glenn, knows the system, had 9 sacks last year. So to me, Will McDonald had a great year. We'll see if he can build off of that, see what he does in this defense. Jermaine Johnson coming off the injury. I think Jermaine is a very good player. I'm not sure he's going to be the same guy right out of the box. Like
Right.
sometimes it takes like a half a season before they look like themselves after an injury like that. After that, it's pretty slim. So I think they could use another pass rusher there that can be rotational, and then if there's an injury, can play there. Quinnen, obviously you're going to get sacks there in the middle, but Zadarius Smith is my guy. I'd bring him in for a year.
He could play inside and out.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
He's good enough to play DT or outside technique. So
They
yeah.
need help on all,
good
like you
one,
said,
Cos.
all along the defensive line. I would love both those moves if it happened. Like
Which move would you like more?
I would probably like the
Yeah, I
Zadarius
think-
Smith
I
more
think
too,
he's
because
right
like
on that.
Aaron Glenn's establishing his defense. He wants
Yeah.
to. I think that's something that we're really gonna be we're gonna be hyper focused on the offense, but the defense we might forget a little bit. But if the defense struggles early, we're gonna be like, this is what
Yeah.
you were brought in here to.
Yeah, and I think we're all looking at last year's defense and going like whatever happened last year happened, right? Like, was it Saleh getting fired? Like, we kind of dismiss it and say, all right, they'll be back, but I don't know. Like, will they be back? Like,
Yeah.
there's questions on it. I think
Yeah.
they downgraded DJ Reed to Brandon Stevens. To me, is a step back. I think there's questions of safety, questions on the D line. So yeah, I'm curious. Nice, like I said earlier, depth to me is huge. They just don't have much depth, which I'm not sure how many teams have depth. To be
Right.
fair, like we're hyper focused on the Jets, but yeah, I think they need some depth.
I think the defense, actually, the one positive point I'll bring up today with the Jets is for this season, I'm excited about the defense. I think they're going to be very good for one reason. I think we're going to be flying to the football. I think Sherwood's going to be flying all over the place. I think Quincy's also going to be
Can
there.
hope so. Man.
I want them to use Quincy also in more rush-focused positions.
Yeah,
I
I think
even
they will because they're
Yeah.
going to blitz more. So I think they
Yeah.
will. Yeah.
I think that guy has even the potential to get down in a three-point stance at times. I mean, not saying I would do that
Well,
with him, but he does. He's
remember,
a laser, man.
Remember the Denver game a couple
Yeah.
years ago when he came off the edge to win the game and the strip stack, and then Bryce Hall
Yes.
recovered it for the touchdown. That was
Yeah.
Quincy coming off the edge. Yeah, I think the other part with the defense, like I remember one of the things somebody said to me last year was that like they couldn't wrap their brain around was all their best players on defense had a down year.
That's true.
Quinnen didn't have his best year. Quincy didn't have his best year. Sauce didn't have his best year, right? So that's kind of the star at each level. That's not going to happen again.
No,
that
it's
can't
not.
happen.
That's a good
That
point.
can't happen again. So do if they get all three of those guys back to where they were in 2023, the defense should be pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think if either one of those moves happen, I'd get really excited. I'm going to throw one name at you guys, and he's a free agent right now as well, and I think this might solve the wide receiver 2 problem for us. Amari Cooper.
Good player.
I know I don't know what happened in the Buffalo situation. Maybe he didn't like the offense he was in, but him and Josh Allen never got a connection there. He's such you want to talk about a great route runner? That's a great route runner. I feel like he could solidify that wide receiver 2 position. You're not peppering him with targets, but he's doing more than I think what Allen Lazard can do, or even Reynolds. So I wonder, he's still out there. Could you get him on a cheap 1-year deal again? See if he can do a prove it deal. Get him in the wide receiver 2 position, and I feel much more better about that wide receiver room if Amari Cooper's as a wide receiver 2.
Yeah, I'd like to know what happened last year. I'd like to dig in on that a little bit with him more. And it's a departure from what we saw from them in March. Like they went younger, right? They got rid of basically everyone who was older on this team except for Tyrod. So now you're talking about older players, but they will be cheaper at this point. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how hard they go here to shore up some of these holes.
And when you had first proposed this question, I went straight to not even wide receiver 2s. I actually looked at the tight end free agency mark. You got guys like Gerald Everett, Hayden Hurst. Not saying that they will be our starter necessarily, but I think it's going to be interesting to see if Mason Taylor and Stone Smart and our boy Ruckert, are they going to be able to really come in and be suitable tight end options? I don't know yet. I think so,
I don't know.
You bring in Gerald Everett or a Hayden Hurst. At least you got somebody in there that has that vet in them that has started before in the league. So
it's tricky, right?
Yeah,
they're all these guys we're talking about. They're all free agents on June 18th for a reason.
Right.
That's true.
Right. This goes back to the Dalvin Cook argument.
Yeah.
Where I was dead set against them bringing in Dalvin Cook, because it's like, why is Dalvin Cook available on August 20th or whatever when they signed him? And it's like, the league generally knows.
Yeah,
So
no, you're right, Kyle.
now look, if you can get them for cheap, then maybe it's worth a flyer.
Right.
Like we've seen it work. But you just got to remember that they're probably not going to be the solution to like the problem. They've been, so it's tough. They're names we know.
Right.
Yeah.
So you go, oh man, like their names, but we'll
and they're more proven than the names that they currently are on the Jets in those positions.
They're proven, but they're old.
They're old, right?
So then they're on the back end of their career. Can they still do it?
Can they still give you some?
Yeah. And then that's the challenge for Muji and his staff.
Yeah.
Is figuring that out.
Well, I want to see at the end of this year, I want to know who is Justin Fields. So I want to be able to somewhat maximize him and see who he could be, and if he's even worth us bringing back for another year. Because I think we'll fall in a situation, if I had to predict, and I'll stop here. If I had to predict, I think we're going to get to a point where we're going to say, oh, look at all these great things he's done. What if he had this? What if he had that? Imagine. And then we're going to resell ourselves on another quarterback. Yeah. And that might, deter us from, not saying drafting someone, but investing in a quarterback.
We'll see.
I don't know.
No, listen, I'm sure they're wondering that themselves, and they're trying to get that answer this year. I think that's what their sole focus is, letting him get the first. He's QB1, let him run with the job.
Yeah,
see what happens with this offense with Tanner Angstrad, and if he can prove that he can be a long-term solution for the quarterback position. But guys, that's a show. Kaz, enjoy the time off before training camp, man.
You.
I know this is like the little quiet time, and then it's going to get really chaotic and crazy for you spending those hot summers in New Jersey.
How long you off, Kaz? What's this vacation looking like?
No, I got 2 weeks coming up after this week. I'm off for 2, back for 1, then off for another, then training camp hits. So
that's not. They need more time off. These guys. This is unbelievable. It's not right what they do to you guys.
Listen,
and I'm working on my top 25, my roster top 25 right now. I got to get that done by the end of the week, so that they have that to run while I'm on vacation.
Well, you have to plug is all sent.
And if you want more coverage like this, you should be a subscriber to Post Sports Plus, because that's where Kaz writes all these awesome pieces, including the All-Century team for the New York Jets that he wrote. Post Rushmore, which is coming out, started today. It's going to continue all throughout the next couple of weeks. We talk about the Post Rushmore for who are the top 4 Jets all time in the NFL as well. Kaz will break all that down, but as always, we appreciate your coverage and your insight.
I got 2 kids to put through college. So please subscribe to Post Sports Plus.
There you go. That's the best plug right there. Guys, thank you.
Love that.
For the gang's all here.
Gang's
appreciate
all
you
here.
guys.
Hell yeah.
And we'll catch you next time.